All right. Frank Yang, we are live. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me, bro. Atlas, Infinite Brah.
Infinite Brah.
Yo, guys, check out my Zoe uniform. It starts snowing. I'll start to wear that, but it's too hot right now. I have a stringer inside. This is my 3 layers of the onion. My stringer inside, and this, and the Zoe Chen. Oh, we're gonna talk about this three stages to the absolute. So
I am so pumped for this conversation. Unbelievably pumped. The more to the absolute we go inward, in a sense, the less dialectic we can have about it that is really resonant. And it's kind of like when you get to the level of LeBron James and Michael Jordan, there's only a few basketball players that they can play with now. And so that's what I've noticed about where you've gotten in your understanding of who we are and why we're here, is that it's made it so that I can tell, based on what you're communicating about your realization about the nature of reality, that this is going to be an optimal convo, because we've gotten to that one end and we're communicating it in somewhat similar ways. So yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Just the stuff that I heard you say, like on your YouTube videos, like the analogy of video games and infinity expressed in itself. It's just a very, very simple way to get to the truth. Like you have these 2-step things. Like, okay, you're a separate self with the cloud, and then you're embodying awareness. You're the sky. Okay, there's step, you disappear into the both, and then you become forming emptiness. So simple, bro. And then the tantra stuff too. I wouldn't know what we were talking about when you say tantra just like 2 months ago, but I started to look into like Dzogchen and tantra stuff. It just makes sense. Just like after you realize emptiness, you go to the tantric route where you fill the emptiness with form. But the problem is a lot of people start doing tantra without realizing emptiness first. So they get stuck in content without realizing that the context are one and the same. You find the emptiness in the form the emptiness.
Yep. Yeah. And this is the Heart Sutra's core. And emptiness is form, form is emptiness. And let's actually go right into the steps. Sure. Yeah, because I think it's so important to go right in. So also what's so interesting about Frank is that Infinite Brah over here is a really good, eloquent and punctual communicator about what's going on. And so you and I come from a practice that has gotten us here that actually has a lot of similarities. So both of us have sat the Theravada Buddhism Vipassana meditation retreats. 10 days, zip, shut the fuck up, don't say a word. Yeah, what? Dude, people can't even shut up for 1 day. I remember when I first heard that people didn't talk for 10 days, I was like, dude, I'm going to be in the pool of people that there's only like whatever, a couple thousand or tens of thousands on the planet that have ever been able to shut the fuck up for 10 straight days and tap into what happens when you do that.
I was scared when I first heard about it, but I just knew I had to do that. I had nightmares about it before I went to my first retreat.
That's a component of it for us. Then Dzogchen is another component of it for us. And then I'm not sure which spiritual mystic literatures you've read, but the Tao Te Ching, Confucius's Analects is another one that I've really liked. I've really liked the Old and New Testament. I've loved the Sufi metaphysics. So have you also kind of looked at some of those mystic tradition literatures as well?
Not as much. I come from like a background in fitness and art and philosophy and neuroscience. I like to read about psychology, and through that I started transitioning into spiritual practice, because I realized that I just wanted to explore consciousness. I just want to explore how the mind works, because Because at first you explore the body, and when you max out on the body, what's left? Oh, you explore the brain. When you max out on the brain, quote unquote, max out on the brain, you can't really max out on the brain, but I'm just saying, when you quote unquote max out on the brain, you go into the mind, then you go into consciousness, and realize that consciousness is not what gives rise and manifests all the other stuff from before: the body, the mind, the brain, the entire reality, at least from that of direct experience. And so a lot of the stuff that I read when I first started on the path was pretty mainstream, like Eckhart Tolle and Jen McKenna. I tend to read the more modern stuff. It's like when I was into philosophy, I used to read a lot of. I never really read that much of the original text. I always kind of read the like the more modern interpretation of it. Same with spirituality. And then I went to my first retreat, and after that, I got into the more some of the more non-duality stuff. Before my first retreat, I didn't know what non-duality was really. I was just into the more basic mindfulness stuff. And then I went to the Rupert Spiral route, the Ashanti, all those guys. And then that's when I started to abide in the I am. And then my second retreat. After that, I started to get into the pragmatic Dharma stuff, which is the guys that I interviewed with yesterday, Michael Taft and Daniel Ingram, Kenneth Folk, Chodosa, Shizhen Yang, all those guys. Yeah. So almost everything I know about the old school Buddhism are from those guys, filtered through those guys. But I know I'm reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead right now, so I'm getting a little bit into like the original stuff. So yeah,
beautiful. I also take a very, as you mentioned, a very scientific as well as neuroscientific and psychological edge to this as well. It's a synthesis of science and spirituality in many ways. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
One thing, do you ever do pickup?
Oh, like pickup artists or pickup basketball?
Pickup girls.
Pickup artists. Yeah. Sure.
I think 9 out of 10 people that I talk to who are on the path or quote unquote finish the path, at one point they were either bodybuilders or they were pickup artists.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Because aesthetic is a big part of it. Yeah, and so is the game of psychology with getting in the shortest amount of time possible, getting somebody to say yes. You know where I got my path from in that regard is sales. I did so much door-to-door sales, selling so many different products. And basically it's knock, knock, knock. Hey, I'm going to educate you about something that you may be interested in. And then within, 5 or 10 minutes, do you have their credit card information? Or are you closing a sale? Can you build trust that quickly, which is very similar with like a pickup artist is trying to like build rapport and trust really quickly to get, and bodybuilding aesthetic. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons, because I think it's not just particular stuff that we do, it's because we come from all those different angles.
Yes.
It's almost like, so it's not really about pickup or the sales. It's like, bodybuilding and sales and pickup. This seems so opposite and the other side of the extreme from quote unquote spirituality. And that's exactly why a lot of people will get into spirituality or go really deep into it or deep at the other side of it. Because when two extremes go to the end, they meet.
Yeah.
They loop. Yeah, it's all about the loop. Same thing.
Yep. And actually the word polymath is probably one of the best words, having learned much across different fields. Because when you do that process, what happens is you basically do what Alan Watts said was the many paths and the one end. Yeah. And so you see it from all of those different paths and angles and signposts and all this type of stuff that are not just spiritual, but is also scientific. It's also entrepreneurial. It's also artistic, aesthetic. It's emotional quotient. It's all of that stuff mixed together. Okay. So my bit here to play with would be, I also did a lot of not only the old school mystic stuff, but I got to a lot of the modern stuff that you listed too, the Eckhart Tolle, the Adyashanti, the Muji, the Rupert Spira, even our friend Bentinho Massaro is also young and is realized and has also been someone interesting that's helped me along the path quite a bit. And so it's kind of interesting seeing a lot of young people that are maybe even in kind of like their 20s or kind of in their 30s now that are picking this up.
I love that guy, man. I talk to him like every day. Less nowadays because he's busy doing his retreat right now. But there was a time like after my awakening where he really kind of helped me integrate by just being a friend. Like I think for like 5 months, we used to talk every day, just like bros and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing, because again, it's like the Michael Jordan, LeBron James thing, is that like there's not going to be that many people that you can really vibe on the level of both simultaneously the void as well as infinity expressing itself. So okay, so let's play with our stepping stones here. I'll go ahead and recap a couple stepping stones, and then you'll hit the tennis ball over with your thoughts about this. So, okay, so generally speaking, the idea of like sotapanna or stream entry has been something really interesting that I think we've both been fascinated with. And I think stream entry for me has had a lot to do with sometime at my first meditation retreat, learning about even the idea of being an observer or a witness to the clouds of thoughts and emotions and feelings and beliefs and perceptions and blah, blah objects, etc., appearing and disappearing and appearing and disappearing, and training the monkey mind to not get attached to the clouds themselves, but to recognize myself as the sky more so, the observer or the witness, become more and more aware of consciousness itself. Okay, so for me, I didn't have those words back then, but that was sort of my first step, was that sort of understanding. And we'll also probably talk about entheogens as well, because both of us have had a good amount of relation there. So then it, in a sense, the next step was sort of it's really, for me, it was very sudden. For me, this second sort of step was basically the complete switch from being kind of full-time, not aware of the seer, to being, boom, full-time aware of the seer. Aware permanently of the seer, aware permanently of awareness, and how awareness is shared and eternal among all of us. That was kind of the second thing. So it's like kind of like recognizing sky versus clouds, and then recognizing, oh shit, permanent sky is shared and eternal awareness. And then the last one for me, the last step, is to recognize that even awareness is an agent of infinity, of source expressing itself. And that's sort of recognizing what the void is, or the absolute, or the ultimate is, as well as infinity expressing itself, being completely centerless. This Atlas character and this Frank character we're in a dream, and that these characters are completely illusory, but also unique expressions in the dream. Okay, so walk us through sort of some of your tennis ball hits along.
Okay, so bouncing back from what you said, I use an analogy of a video game. At first, you're a video game character. You're just a separate avatar inside the video game, and you don't know that you're in the video game. And in the second step, you're the witness. You become the screen, and you start to observe the video game. Oh, the God consciousness, the witness. And then a lot of people think they're done there, which is cool. That's a little bit more spacious, because it's like that's the sky versus the cloud, the first stage. And then the third stage is when the screen merge with not just the individual character, but all the characters inside that game, and inside all the infinite numbers of games in the entire multiverse. Yes. Environment, whatever, the sky, the clouds, just you merge with it. So the way I like to put it is that you become the nothing that manifests all games in all multiverses.
Oh, perfect.
So it's almost like you become a pixel, but that's not really the right analogy, because when you zoom down into a pixel, what do you get? You get infinity. So that's the Vipassana path, just zooming and breaking down atoms until you can't break down atoms anymore. That's why even Goenka can use that analogy. Oh, you're breaking down atoms by examining your body mind until you can't break down atoms anymore. What is that? That's emptiness. But it's not like a small thing here. It's not like, oh, it's small. It's also fucking huge, because the more you can contract, the more you can expand. So like you are like the point that's smaller than an atom, but at the same time, you are infinity, and they're the same. So we're talking about the exact same thing, I think. Another analogy that I use is you at the last stage, you become a cosmic storm that has no eye. Eye could be eye or eye. So there's no center, and everything is rolled into this cosmic storm in a sort of like impermanent transient process. Even the witness is rolled in there. Even the observer is rolled in there. The self, the big S, the self, the small s. everything's rolling in that cosmic storm. And in that cosmic storm, there is no separate watcher, there's no separate observer. And it's like there is awareness, but you're not present. You transcend both existence and non-existence.
Yep.
Oh, same analogy.
I love that. That was super solid. Specifically, I loved how you went through this recognizing on a video game level, which is really important as an analogy to use here. Yeah, basically thinking that you are a separate finite body entity. And you actually use this, which I think I've started to borrow this from you so good, is the condom over the head.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's
all
like
my metaphors are sexual because I used to be a sex addict, so
and that's also interesting. Yeah, and that has to do with pickup and body and aesthetic. Yeah. And but this is infinity constantly having sex with itself, like you said, in
universe fucking itself. You're fucking universe, the universe is fucking you, and
you.
It's all very sexual. This thing is extremely sexual. It's like when people ask me what does the state of ground feel like, I'll give them two things. One, it feels like death. Simultaneously, it feels like an orgy with the universe.
Yes.
Without an orgy without a person.
Yeah.
It's like every sensation, everything you come across, it's just penetrating each other, interconnected. And it's just like everything I wanted out of sex, I can get it with like the smallest sensation or the whole room or the sky, the cloud, whatever. But sex is still good though. So if you have sex, it's like a meta sex. It's like, okay, before we just didn't pick up without the realization, it's just like, okay, you just okay, that's actually the portal to infinity. Because if you think about it, having sex, the girl or the guy, if you're a girl or a guy, they're just middleman for you to sort of glimpse at the absolute. Because when you have an orgasm, that's a mini death. The orgasm is a nirvanic state where your mind just goes completely blank. That's why most people want to get orgasms. But the point is not to just get orgasm. That's cool too. The orgasm is kind of like a Kundalini awakening, blah, 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 like jhanas or mystical experiences. The real thing that you're trying to get out of sex is the post-orgasmic bliss. That's the state of equanimity that we're after.
Yep. It's a glimpse. It's a glimpse. Everything that we pursue externally for happiness is giving us glimpses into what we seek. And that's why in the parable of the prodigal son is the turn, rather than seeking externally, is the turn inward to find, as Aurobindo said, it's the well. As Aurobindo said, is the well of honey that's located under the rock. And the rock is kind of the ego. And as you were saying, there's like this egoic condom-like bubble in the game character at first. And not always. Some indigenous traditions raise the child from birth in terms of recognizing infinity expressing itself. And that's really interesting as well, is to think about a pedagogy for kids so that they don't grow up even having the egoic condom bubble even to start. But what happens is then, the recognition, like you said, of not only being that screen that then all of the movie plays on, but also that the screen itself is the screen it's shared for all of the characters across all games. So it's you said this, nothing that manifests all games. So we are that. We are nothing manifesting all infinite creation and all games. And that's both the Planck, at the Planck level, subatomic, blah, all the way down, as well as the largest infinite cosmic. And a cosmic storm with no center is another really good one that you said also. So it's basically your Leela in the Sanskrit tradition. You're this divine play unfolding, and yet you have no center in that cosmic play that is unfolding. And because you recognize that you are it, you're not the localization of the Atlas or the Frank. And you've used this, actually, this would probably be a good place to go, is you said that there's a solidity that dissolves and dissolves and dissolves and dissolves and dissolves and dissolves until the last tiny speck that's even, you said there's a difference, a quantum leap difference between 99.9% dissolved and 100% dissolved. Tell us about sort of, that last speck, what you mean by solidity, and if that means basically becoming the nothing that then manifests infinite creation. That's sort of that last step, that last leap.
Okay, so basically, you're doing, if you do come from the Vipassana path, basically you're scanning your body. You're becoming aware of all the sensations in your body. That's the very basic practice of mindfulness, by scanning the body. And that object of meditation could be the body, it could be the breath, it could be sight, sound, thoughts, whatever. It doesn't really matter, because all sensations are equal footing. So let's just say, for me as an example, my path was body scanning. I did body scanning as a practice for about 3 years before I started getting into the other stuff. So what happens is, when you become aware as a meditator, as a subject here, meditating to an object outside of you, it was a duality at first, right? And the whole thing about spirituality is closing that duality between subject and object, between the observed and the observer and observation. So at first, when you scan the body, you are breaking down your body atom by atom. It's almost like your body is this onion, and you're peeling it off layer by layer by layer, or just comments, whatever you want to call it. And just by putting awareness on a sensation long enough, you automatically dissolve it, and you realize that the awareness and the sensations are one and the same. And if the body is just a collection of sensations, if the mind, the self, is just a collection of sensations, if sight, sound, emotions are all just a collection of sensations, the more you place your awareness on those sensations, the more you see that, first of all, they're not separate. Awareness are those sensations. Sensations are aware of themselves exactly where they are, without a center, without a hearer, without a seer, without a thinker, without a doer. And second of all, you almost, quote unquote, physically penetrate those sensations from solidity to liquid, or honey, or nectars, to smoke. Yeah, right? So, but before you can truly realize everything, you have to first become nothing, because I think affirmation comes after negation. That's why the natty method, not this, not that, not self, not me, not me. Why isn't it everything's me? I've talked to a guy, a few guys told me, why can't I just do the self-inquiry practice like this? Everything's me, that's me. The sky is me, that's the self. Everything is yes. You have to say no to everything before you can say yes. You have to die, completely die. Nobody wants to die, but everyone wants to wake up. That's what Ronnie Coleman says. Yeah, you have to dissolve every single solidity, not just in your body, mind, but in your field of experience, through all the aggregates, different sense store, until every single last speck of it is dissolved. And before you could do that, that last speck, even if that speck was a size like smaller than an atom, is still going to be a quote unquote self that's going to solidify a ground. And for some people, that ground, or myself included, before I dissolve the last speck, that ground could be the awareness, or the observer, or the Godhead. You're going to personalize the Godhead and say that's the new self. If the last speck is there, and then it's not last speck, it's always trying to pull things, to pull the ground, and say that's the new me. And a lot of people take psychedelics before they dissolve, before they recognize shamatha. They go through the same thing. They unconsciously find this, stand on just another ground and say that's the new self with the capital S. And let me show you, talking about metaphors and analogies and visualization, because we both really into this stuff. I have a few visual metaphors that I saved to I'm going to show you, that really stuff like this. Like you have that. See, it's like you can't. I have a video of it. I think your viewers will get a really good sense of what this thing is like. Oh, there we go. I found it. Okay, so this is a good example of it. You see that?
Yeah. Yep.
See, and then this one is cool, like something like that. That's the really good example of emptiness and form just fucking each other, and the parts and walls and halls and part. And there's one more that I like. This one I like a lot because there's no gap. It's completely seamless. Yep. There's complete distance and separation, because the other ones there's still like a space inside. That's still not very accurate, even though you could feel like that. It feels like that's how I feel when I walk around sometimes. But that's not even that accurate because there's no center, right? So before you close the loop, well, let me turn my camera on again. Okay, so the reason I'm showing you that is because, see, before you dissolve the last speck of solidity, infinity can't comprehend, can't know itself. There won't be the quote unquote perfect knowledge of know thyself, know thy Lord. Yeah. It's going to be a self knowing the Lord instead of the Lord of the self knowing itself. And people, how do I know where the light is gone? You just know. It's the most obvious thing in the world. It's more obvious than the fact that you thought you were a human character before you woke up. So
yeah,
it's just And then we come across another person who is sort of there, and you just know. And people just ask me, "How do you know if this guy's there?" That this is you just know.
Yeah.
But of course, everyone. Let me stress this: everyone's there already. It's almost like the analogy. Here's another analogy: you're a vase or an island in the middle of the ocean or middle of space, and then you dissolve that island, and then just washes over you. But then there was never a cup. There was never a cup. There was never an island. There was never a vase. You break the vase, and the space inside the vase and the space outside the vase has always been connected. But even that vase is made up of empty space. The difference is the degrees of solidity. That's why I keep using the word solidity. Yeah. The difference between Buddha, Jesus, and a finite Kant is just the degree of solidity. The former it could vibrate between air, liquid, or an ice cube if he wants. But what the latter, the finite Kant could only be an ice cube, but the same no things.
So one of the most common understandings that you mentioned throughout is, as is talked about across the traditions, is recognizing these onion layers. For those that are really interested in kind of diving into this, recognizing that we've identified ourselves dogmatically, fundamentally, culturally, become indoctrinated and baptized into believing that we are the body, we are finite, we are our name, we are our form, we are our ethnicity, our age, our career, all of these layers of identity. And so the idea, one of the most easy fundamental ideas, is to imagine yourself taking those layers one by one at a time off until you get to the most pure, bare, empty that we share. And that can be thought of as the awareness before coloration. It's like the blank canvas before it gets colored like this. It's like the white shirt before it got colored like this. And it's like your shirt before it got colored, very similarly. And so I like that. I like how you know, a really simple way to, there it is. I know. There it is. Yeah, I know. And then the other thing that you brought up is that, you know, one of the things that people kind of experience the struggle with in like the parable of the prodigal son, to turn the attention on the seer itself, is because the subtlety isn't there, the sensitivity isn't there. And vipassana, you turned it into a verb, vipassanalizing. I thought that was
the vipassanalizer.
The vipassanalizer, yeah, I love this.
The vipassanalizer.
I love that, and this is it's so good, and it's basically like you said. It's like having your awareness on the cloud of sensation that's occurring in the body scans or in the scans of where the monkey mind is bouncing around between clouds, to where you get sensitive enough to where you recognize that the anicca, the impermanence of the cloud, or of the, even as Goenka says, that tiniest little biochemistry that's happening and then gone. And so that's critical to sort of, it's so interesting. It's like when you play the violin, which is also interesting. I played the viola when I was a kid. And so what's interesting is that you can't expect, just like when you go and play, basketball too, you can't walk out and begin shooting 3-pointers and sinking all of them. So in a sense, same with Vipassana, it's almost like it's a muscle, that we have to train, because otherwise it gets atrophied. The muscle of recognizing oneself as the seer, it gets atrophied if we don't do the repetitions, the workout. And so that's been another critical part of that too. So basically, would you say that in a sense the dissolving of the ego is very, very gradual repetitions, and then there are these both the sudden also breakthroughs that happen that then we kind of re-baseline to that as home of being the seer becomes the home, and then that's a level of subtlety away from the gross physical, and then the sort of that becomes home for a while, and then you also kind of recognize that then even awareness is an agent of infinity, and you can kind of shed even that to this nothingness, to this void itself that is then expressing infinite creation, and then you're no longer, there's no center anymore. It's just that massive, like you showed in the visuals, and then that's kind of the highest, you could say, level of subtlety rather than the gross physical. Something around that style of increase in subtlety. Is that the subtlety dissolves the grossness, the physicalness?
Yes.
Okay.
Before we go on, I want to clarify for the people watching, when you say seer, you're talking about the infinity that's expressing itself. You're talking about the awareness without the observer. Yeah, because people can get confused. Because when I talk about the seer, I always say there's no seer, there's no hearer. That's the Buddha's term of saying it. Like in hearing, the hearing. In seeing, just the seeing. In thinking, just the thinking. There's no thinker, no seer, no hearer. So let's just define that really quick. So when you say seer, it's a seer with a capital S. It's the absolute witness without separate observers. Okay, cool. And when I say seer, if I ever use the word seer, I mean like the individual seer that's peeking out from behind your eyes, which doesn't exist. That's the thing we're trying to dissolve.
Interesting. And Ramana Maharshi said that, God is the seer. So like recognize that it's the capital S, versus when you say it, you sometimes mean like the lowercase s.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Also, the term awareness also needs to be clarified, because when that's why the distinction between awareness and there, like I said before, there is awareness, but you're not present. So there's no individual observer. If you can objectify anything, then if you can observe anything, then by definition you're not the observer. So if you can observe the observer, if you can be aware of awareness, if you can be conscious or even God consciousness, then by definition you're none of those things. And that's when you disappear into what I call the one blanket of the universe. Those things can still be experienced. There's experience in itself, but there's a very big distinction between experiencing awareness or experiencing God consciousness as the individual self in a center versus experiencing itself without the experiencer, which means that all the stages before, you can deconstruct and dissolve the observer, the awareness, the consciousness, even the Brah, you can dissolve all that. But they're still there. But you are just not there. But the experience of it is there. It's a very big difference between experiencing that without us individual self versus still having part of that experience, but you're solidified into the quote unquote ego mind. That's a very subtle distinction that a lot of people don't get, but the difference is huge. That's basically the difference between the screen and becoming the screen and the video game at the same time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so let's put that into the description in the game analogy. So it would be that at the lowest level, I am a separate finite player in the game, and then it's in a sense recognizing that I am the awareness itself that is the experiencer of not only this game, but of beyond this game. And then kind of recognizing that awareness is shared and eternal. That's sort of becoming more and more the screen itself that's modulating the different images of that game and the next games that come up. So from being the finite player in the game to being the screen, and then in sort of the last, in a sense, stage is both the absolute nothingness as well as the absolute everythingness.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So the screen merged with the game and the characters. And so basically, well, there's more screen at the third level. There's more screen because the screen would be analogous to having the observer, the separate observer that's watching your thoughts. That would be the screen. That's the thing that's the vipassanalyzer that we're trying to vipassanalyze. That's the observer that we're trying to observe, so we can deconstruct it. Yeah, because what the observer is really is just more solidified sensations that's clustered around. Either here, behind your eyes in your head, or it could be like a jhanic experience where it's like it's like all boundless space, but it's still there's still a bubble there. There's still a sense of solidity there. And the point is to dissolve all solidity, not just in the head, not just outside, but everything. So, but before you can dissolve the solidity, the solidity is always going to congeal itself into a new ground and sort of evaporate it into the new self. So it's very tricky. It's very, very tricky. Yeah, it's very.
Frank says the ego is a cheeky cunt.
It's a cheeky cunt.
So even solidity is a cheeky cunt, and it'll come back. It'll
come back. Yeah, but then after you've dissolved everything, there are still going to be experiences where you can feel a little bit more solidified than the next, but you see or you experience them experientially at the cellular level as empty. You can still have conditions arise due to everyday, interaction with samkhara, but you realize samkhara is nirvana. It's very different from before.
I think we both just cut out for a moment. Let's just rewind a couple sentences. Keep going from the cheeky cuntness of the solidity coming back. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I was saying was after realization, you could still have solidity coming back due to everyday interaction with the world of samkhara. But realize samkhara is nirvana. You see at the most cellular fundamental level that solidity and emptiness are the same. There's no absolute difference. And because of this realization, your experience of solidity just goes down by 99.99%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and this is also where science
holograms.
Everything has holograms. Yeah. Science
is holograms.
And science has been a really fun in the last 100 years sort of. Donald Hoffman calls science the Johnny-come-lately to the spiritual mystic traditions because, he's so spot on. Johnny-come-lately because even quantum mechanics is saying that it's no thing that is then modulating and appearing as matter and form. And then to recognize that voidness, that nothingness, as well as the everythingness. There's just nothing outside of that's it. Even
the difference between dimensions, people are like, oh, we live inside a simulation. How about the 5D dimension versus the 2D? I say there's no distinction.
Yes.
It's all nothing is manifesting as form. There's just difference in form.
Yep.
Form is just trying to take credit for infinity. It's just like what is the observer? What is the self? They're just solidity taking credit, pretending for a second that it's nothingness, and that could be manifest into either the egoic self or the observer or the God self. But all this is labels.
And there's the idea of wherever, fascinatingly enough, simulation theory is taking us, which is so awesome, is just another, in a sense, Johnny-come-lately to the spiritual mystic wisdoms, which is basically now in a synthesis of science and engineering and technology with spirituality, can say that it doesn't even matter what layer or what nesting hurdle we're talking about, because it's all that nothingness to that everythingness. And yeah, so what we, just like we're about to do right now, Frank, we fast forward like 10 years or 20 years, it's just going to be a myriad of these kind of like indistinguishable virtual realities where, you'll pop in for, and play a game, and then you'll switch into a different game on a potentially even a different planet, different civilization, different timeline, different blah blah, and just jump between these simulations and whatnot. And guess what stays the same? The agent of observation. What stays the same, just like in the dream at night when you go to sleep and you simulate out the dreamed environment, is very similar to what the manifested virtual reality world is like. We simulate out the observing agent and we simulate out the dreamed environment in the dream world. And so, so I find that all of that wisdom of dreams and video game simulations are all a way to express the nothingness to the everythingness, the void to the infinitude. Is that about how you feel?
Yeah. See, the difference between what I think dream and reality or different dimension is, again, difference in solidity. But once you realize it's all empty, you can play around with different degrees of solidity. So the only reason why I think this, most people before realization think this reality right here is quote unquote real, and that the dream is a dream, is because dream is less solid. Dream is more liquid. It's more, there's more, more opportunity to talk around without consequences, because it's just more liquidy. It's just less solidified, right? And this reality is more solidified, but it's just the degree of it, the same thing that makes up the dream in this world. And if we were to discover that there's another dimension out there, and we were simulated dimension, it's just going to be the same. It's just going to be the different configurations of solidity and different degrees of the solidity, but all solidity are exactly the same as non-solidity anyway. So and it's the same with psychedelics. Actually, psychedelics are a great tool to have a glimpse of the Rigpa, to have a glimpse of the absolute witness, or the awareness without the observer. It's a great way to glimpse at it. But the content of psychedelics is just the solidity of it, the manifestation of the emptiness. So if you get caught up in psychedelics, caught up in the form without realizing that the form and the context, the content and the context are exactly the same, then you could be chasing down a rabbit hole that you never, like, you could be chasing more. It's like more altered state of consciousness. It's going to be more. But enlightenment is not really a level of consciousness. It's that which gives rise to all levels of consciousness in mind. Which doesn't exclude anything, by the way. It's not like, oh, enlightenment is this thing at the top here. Because I saw this diagram yesterday. David Hawkins.
The levels of consciousness. I saw you comment about that on your story. He's been a profound influence on me as well. But go ahead, because I think that was your first time sort of seeing the way that he had put it, and so it's been a really powerful influence on many people awakening to sort of what these elevated states of peace, joy, bliss as a natty state, as a natural state are, and how even all this ego and this shame and guilt and all of that stuff are nowhere near as much of a natty state.
Let me pull it out. Let me pull it out so people can see. There we go. I think a lot of people has seen this graph. The states of consciousness. You have enlightenment at the top. Enlightenment at the top. Then you have peace, joy, love, reason, acceptance, willingness, neutrality, courage, pride, anger, desire, and I can't read the rest. But the last one is shame. Consciousness level. It's a great graph. I don't know that much about David Hawkins, but just from I've read some of the text that people send me. I think, this guy got some real wisdom. And the graph, sometimes I like to nitpick little things just to make people think outside the box. I'm not saying that graph is wrong. Like I would put it that way too, but it's more like enlightenment is not really at the top of the pyramid. It's more like the space that gives rise to the entire pyramid. It includes and transcends all the levels. And just because you're at the enlightenment level or the knowing level of enlightenment doesn't mean that you can never feel shame. That's just bullshit. You can still feel everything, all the range of human emotion you can feel, but after enlightenment, you feel them from a completely different perspective. And the suffering, really, all the mystic traditions, they really deliver what they preach. They really deliver what they advertise. My goal was never to eliminate suffering. I just wanted to understand experience and consciousness. But after the path, or at least where I am right now, I would say there's more. But the more for me right now is like going back after you beat the video game by a cheat code.
Yeah, you deliver rare candies to everybody, like in Pokemon. You're delivering rare candies to help people level up. The Bodhisattva, the tantric weave of your realizations. One of the things that you mentioned there that's really important is sort of the there's a spiral dynamics as well from Claire Graves and Don Beck and Chris Cowan and even Ken Wilber, and that spiral dynamics has a very similar style of understanding as like levels of consciousness. And at the top of the spiral dynamics is also that state of which you become the integration of the exactly. Yeah. And the mystic traditions, what they teach is they basically teach, in a sense, they teach the pause. You create this pause. There's this gap that you create now so that you no longer react instantly to the different stimuli and get absorbed in the clouds, but instead that pause, that gap that you create through breath, through that anapana, that awareness, what happens is that then you observe the arising of the cloud of anger or shame or guilt or whatever, and then you go, I already know what this is all about. I'm just bringing bliss, peace, love, joy, right? Period. And so then it's sort of, getting into that. You re-baseline yourself more and more towards that. And so this is why I struggle a bit with Neo-Advaita teachings, because the Neo-Advaita pointing is that, you're already it. It's the non-dual real. You're already it. You're already as Rumi said, you go from room to room looking for the diamond that is already around your neck. And yet the Sufi traditions, they say, yet it remains for you to recognize it. It remains for you to recognize it. And the Buddha from 2,500 years ago taught a very systematic science to eradicating the suffering, because you no longer attach yourself in the clouds. So very much so in the Neo-Advaita, if you just say, this is all a dream, I'm an illusion, this is all a dream, and there's nothing for me to do, there's nothing to seek, I'm already it, then the ego, the condom bubble, in a sense, may not ever have gotten popped. And so you may actually still butterfly effect out malevolence, because you haven't went through the process that maybe the Buddha had taught for a while. How do you feel about stuff like that?
That's why I think you need to skin infinity from all different angles.
Yes.
That's what I was saying about what I was saying earlier, that a lot of people can get glimpses of the non-dual state either by practicing, Advaita stuff or psychedelics. But if they haven't, with their industrial strength concentration, sit down, shut the fuck up, go to retreats, dissolve their entire field of experience, and that takes time. That takes time. It's not like it's just a glimpse of it. So you need to attack infinity from both sides until it closes the loop on itself. So I agree with that. It's almost like you, as a video game character, you can sort of have a cheat code for a little bit and then realize I'm the screen. But then without actually dissolving your solidity, like a bodybuilder, rep, day by day, year by year, you're going to go back to your egoic self. And a lot of times when you have a glimpse of it, you actually become even more egoic, because you're extrapolating that experience you had into the new ground, into the new self, into the character goes around telling other characters, hey, I'm the screen, but there's still a separation between him and the screen, or else he wouldn't be saying that, right? Yeah.
I really appreciate how you keep saying, not only tackling it from all of these different sides and angles, as we talked about with polymathy, but also we've been using this gym analogy a lot, the repetitions, which is great. And also you say closing the loop. I really like how you say, and you use the Douglas Hofstadter strange loop as well. I really like that, because that's ultimately what these potential Big Bang, big crunches, Big Bangs, big
Yeah.
crunches are yeah. And
Every
so
sensation is looping on itself without beginning or end, and the universe is just a big sensation. It's just different degrees of
there
it,
you
just
go.
nested with each other.
I love that.
So,
The universe is a big sensation of having sex with yourself.
Oh man. So yeah, about the non-duality stuff, I think just also at the other side of the extreme, a lot of people can get stuck in the emptiness stuff. They can get stuck in the Buddha stuff. I've seen people that go to Vipassana retreats over and over again for 10 years, 20 years. They still haven't realized they're a meditator inside the head, scanning their body.
I know. Okay, keep going. Yeah, keep going.
So you need, again, like if you can just tell these people, dude, man, relax a little bit, do some headless way stuff, listen to some Newman. That would, that's why when I tell my fitness client, what is power? Power is speed times strength, right? So as an athlete, like a sprinter runs fast because he has a lot of power. He has both speed and strength. Because sprinting is not just pure speed, it's power. So if you want to be a good sprinter, you have to lift weights, strong in the squats, and you have to do some plyometric stuff, box jumps, reactivity stuff, like, and then you transfer that into power. Speed times strength is power. A lot of people only have one side of the equation and just need to do a little bit more of the other side of the equation. People that are really good at Vipassana and really good at concentration stuff, they're like strength athletes. They're like, they have a lot of the strength, but they're not transferring that strength into speed. Speed is more like the Dzogchen stuff or the plyometrics of the mind. It's more like, the headless with glimpse. The awareness practice, we just kind of, sort of like, turning awareness on itself, snap a finger. Right? That's the speed of the awareness. And then you have the Vipassana, the concentration, the strength, times the speed, the plyometry of the mind. You get a power athlete, and awakening is power.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. That's why Shila, Samadhi, and Panya are sort of these three Buddhist style principles that are so fundamental. You have to have the morality. The morality is critical because the morality and the awakening feedback on each other. They do. The more moral you are, the more easy it is to awaken. The more awakened you get, the more easy it is to be moral. Right. And so you get that feedback. And then the concentration has a lot to do with actually being able to calm yourself down to the equanimity, to be able to see the clouds forming and dissolving, the anicca there, the impermanence. And then you get the panya, you get the insight, you get the vipassana, in the sense, the true insight into the nature of reality and being, when you kind of do enough repetitions. And you also do polymath. You go and you do repetitions here, and you do repetitions here, and you do these kinds of repetitions, and you do squats.
Yeah, exactly.
You work out the whole body, right? There's so many bodybuilders that will only do chest, right? But you got to do your legs also, right? That's a huge funny meme in the aesthetics bodybuilding world. And it's the same thing here as well. If you don't know how a microdose of magic mushrooms will interplay with the realizations that you've had so far with your weightlifting, that's its own style that's its own style of weightlifting and dance. And so you gain all these different styles of dance and art to form this masterpiece. The Sufi metaphysics have a phrase that goes wadat al-wujud. It means the unity of all finding, right? The unity of all infinity closing the loop on itself.
You can enter that. You can close the loop any way you want, really.
Exactly, and that's the thing. There's unique styles. It's the unique styles. Right. That's why Wadat al-Wujud is so important, because every single expression of infinity has its own unique style of closing the loop on itself. That's why you have your own unique style of realizing the one end. And this expression has its unique style of closing the loop. And so that's what I understand as the reason why Leela happens is the big game of hide and seek, the big game of realization for infinity to go through. How does that feel?
So see, a lot of people ask if the awakening is the same in everyone or different. It's both different and the same, because the difference arises through the unity. It's neither just unity because you say, oh, there's only oneness, there's only unity. That's the ground right there. That's an extreme. You take the middle way. The middle way is that which transcends the dualities, right? So it's both in neither unity or separateness. They co-dependent arise. So everybody's experience of emptiness is the same. But how you fill that emptiness with form is different reconfigurations of it for everybody. But then at the same time, emptiness is form. So it's always going to be the same and different. And a lot of people I love Jim Newman, but I find that some of the non-duality stuff that are too extreme, a little bit unsettling for people that are still on the path. It is true that there's nothing to do. It is true that you don't even need to meditate, because no meditation, no jhanic states can touch infinity. There's just going to be like little mosquito dancing on infinity, even the most mind-blowing psychedelic experience, right? But if you tell people that there's nothing to do when they're still on the path, that's a good reminder once in a while. But I've never met anybody, except for maybe 1 out of 5 million geniuses, that didn't have to do anything to wake up, even though it is your true nature. So what was I going with that? I was talking about something else before that.
Well, we were talking about those unique styles, and I think of a really good way to hit the ball back on what you were just saying is the simultaneity, which is really important. I feel there's a lot of people that sort of get stuck, and I think Bentino's also mentioned this before as well. It's almost like the non-duality police. It's like it's only non-duality, period. And yes, and simultaneously is the dualistic concession where where you do have the egoic bubble over people's heads, the condom, and that there is a process of popping that condom bubble that people are walking around in. And that's what the mystic traditions teach as these gym repetitions to do that. And then also another part of the dualistic concession is what is taught in physics as well, with electromagnetism, and it's also taught with that rhythmic balanced interchange between the forces, and that's what was called the gunas as well in the Sanskrit. You have these most fundamental units that create the ascension that happens of what's happened in the billions of years that has gotten us to the point where infinity can be recognizing why it's here doing what it's doing. And so that was critical. The simultaneity is also, I'm curious to see what you feel about this. I think it's really important, but it'll be interesting to see how you feel about it, is that sometimes the Jim Newman and Tony Parsons and Neo Advaita there can be sometimes this very blunt, like the individual is only a complete illusion and dream. You don't exist. That's it. Done. And that doesn't take into account the simultaneity or the Jedi-like ability to go from all of the phases of water, from the steam, the vapor, to the boiling and the water at the room temperature, and slowly becoming ice, the egoic ice. So the point of that point is to say that simultaneity can be thought of in a sense as non-duality, as the ultimate, and then the dualistic concession, like we were just talking about a moment ago, and then the individuation is seen as both a dream, as an illusion, there being no center, at the same time as being a unique firework. Like infinity makes these fireworks so that we can have this firework about itself. And so that's why it's instead of completely saying fuck all the form is an illusion, fuck all the form, instead of saying that, it's basically the East telling the West that it's wrong. But that's not how I see the East and the West as coming together. Right. as one. So you're both the non-dual East and you're the Western, beautiful, individuated firework of infinity. How do you feel about that?
Exactly, because there's nothing off limit with infinity. Infinity has to include the finite. The infinity has to include the individual, right? So who is it that says there's no Jim Newman here? Jim Newman. Website with big letters, Jim Newman. There's nobody here. No, I'm not. I love Jim Newman. I really love the guy. We need people like that. We need people like that who are the ones that are the extreme to tell the people who are doing a lot of Vipassana without realizing that they're Vipassanalizing the Vipassanalizers to say, hey man, what did it do? We need people like that. But I'm sure he realizes. I'm sure that's part of that's part of his quote unquote brand. I'm sure he realizes it, but that's how he chooses to express infinity. And the way we choose to express infinity is that we emphasize the form with the emptiness, not over the emptiness, but with the emptiness. Yeah. So I think the view it's about the reflexivity of the view. You can both and simultaneously be a person and not be a person. Depends on the situation, depends on conditions. There's no reason to think that the no self view is the ultimate view, because you're standing on another ground. But then again, you have to realize that view before you can say that's not the only ground, right? So you have to realize it first, and then you have that lever to play around with. But then at that point, after you realize no self, when you have a quote unquote self, when you continue into a character, it doesn't feel like self anymore.
Would you? Yeah, totally. Would you then use the word simultaneity as sort of one of the best ways to explain this? Okay.
Yeah. I think so. Because even Rob Burbia, he wrote a book called Emptiness, Seeing That Freeze. The whole book is about emptiness, but he keeps emphasizing that even emptiness is empty. Even the distinction between illusion and reality is in itself an illusion. Even fabrication is a fabrication, because if everything is a fabrication, then nothing is a fabrication. If everything is a dream, then nothing is a dream, right? So even he said that even though he emphasizes no self and emptiness a lot, even he said that's just one view out of infinite numbers of views that you can have as the inevitable. So he said that it's not exactly healthy to just abide in the no self view 24/7, because then that's when you get a spiritual bypass, and then it's very easy to become an asshole. When you're just operating on that non-dual 24/7 no self state. It's also very easy to be an asshole when you're only in the self egoic state.
Exactly why I am bringing up simultaneity, because because Buddha today would be, in a sense, if people were solely saying that this is emptiness, dancing, there's nothing for me to do, period, then that would be the Buddha, saying that, listen, there's a way literally for you to end suffering for yourself and not just say that it's emptiness dancing. I can be an egoic, malevolent asshole. If there's a way to calm that down, to water that flame fire. Yeah. So I'm glad. Yeah, the simultaneity, and then another way to talk about that is like a Jedi. The Jedi knows how to be at all of these layers. Yeah,
Shapeshifting.
That's another good way. Shape-shifting, or another good way is the biblical story of Joseph and the coat of many colors as well. It's like the shapeshifter, and so there's a lot of similarity.
One is octopus. It's like a cosmic octopus.
The cosmic octopus. That's interesting. Where'd you get that one from?
Well, I first got that from. I used to like octopus a lot because I heard this talk by Terence McKenna. Yeah, Terence McKenna said he said like he really liked the octopus because the octopus is sort of, he didn't really get into non-duality per se, but he said the octopus wears his mind or his thoughts on his body. He turns the inside out and the outside in. So the octopus's body, his identity is a reflection of the environment, and he's constantly shape-shifting. And then I took the analogy a bit further and said that this state right here, the state of the stateless state, the state or whatever this is, it feels like you are a cosmic octopus with no body, with no center. So it's almost like the Buddha with like 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes. Like, you have this 360 panoramic vision, and you have those tentacles that are like not every sensation, even the cars outside, the cars are here, even you seeing you. There's just different tentacles of sensations that's looping back on itself. And
I like that. I like that. It's
just like
yeah. It's so in a sense the cosmic octopus is kind of like when the tentacles are out everywhere imaginable in all of the infinite creation, and yet is also the void. I see the span. The cosmic octopus can be thought of as the span, whereas the Jedi or shapeshifter or Joseph in the Coding of Many Colors, it's across all the layers simultaneously. That's the core, I think, there. And then would it be fair then to say it would be fair to say that on repeat we're just void to form, form to void, infinite amount here? Let me also put it this way. How many different ways can you color a blank canvas?
Infinite numbers of ways.
How many different ways can you arrange musical notes into a song?
Infinite numbers of ways.
How many different ways can you vibrate your vocal cords to make language?
Infinite numbers of ways.
How many different ways can you modulate a movie screen to make movies?
Infinite numbers of ways.
And so I think this has been the most easy way for me when I talk to people, because as soon as I start asking them those questions, they almost get glimpses into infinity right as I'm asking them the questions.
That's very interesting, man. I think we're talking about the same thing, but from different sides. You're talking about like the impermanent, like every moment is different kind of side. I'm talking about like the physicality of like the looping of it, but they're the same. Yep. Yeah, but they're the same. So it's almost like it's okay. So when people ask you to describe what the Rigpa is or the natural state is, you can't give them a description at all, because it's like it's like what the natural state is. It's like you get a different DMT, you get a different psychedelic from a different planet every nanosecond. That's what after realize
a different psychedelic from a different planet every nanosecond. Oh my God. Okay, keep going. Psychedelic.
After realization, it's just like trippy, bro. You never know what you're gonna get the next moment. Yeah. Even though it's always been like that, but before you tend to solidify experiences into boxes. But now without a box, really every fucking moment I have no fucking clue what I'm gonna do next. And it's so exciting. It's just like,
oh my gosh, I can't stop thinking about this. Okay, so we were just talking about all of the different ways you can color a blank canvas or arrange musical notes into a song. So you got to think about all of the different ways that we could create a planet orbiting a star that would then secrete the entheogens and psychedelics, and also the humans that would then eat them and whatnot. And so you're saying that every single nanosecond, you're basically taking a different entheogen psychedelic from a different creation, a different planet's secretion, and eating that and experiencing that profound of a state of voidness to infinity. And that's
the dance between emptiness and form is infinite. Emptiness, you find the form in emptiness and emptiness in form, and that dance is, yeah.
The Heart Sutra, the Heart Sutra knew it. I really like the way that that was described. That is basically, in essence, what it is. It's like a Kundalini. It's like a permanent Kundalini toroidal awakening, like you were sort of showing in those different visualizations on the device. It's almost like you live. It's like everybody lives in that cosmic storm feeling, but only those that have, quote, awakened or enlightened basically become full-time aware of that notion of the centerless insanity of Leela cosmic storm. Whereas when you live on the gross condom level, you don't recognize that because you're not subtle enough to recognize it, because the universe as it fucks itself, that you're doing it with this condom over your head, and so you're not getting any of the sensation of that. Something. Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh! Oh my god, that was so good. A different.
I actually wrote down a few analogies I want to share with you, because
let's do it. Let's do it.
So maybe I'll throw it out, the analogy out for you, and then you can hit the tennis ball back.
Okay.
So number one is, we talked about it, an invisible cosmic octopus with no body. And second one is cosmic storm.
Hold on. Let's start with there. So one moment. So the invisible cosmic octopus with no body. Okay.
With no center.
With no center. Okay. And then what's the second one?
The second one is I think we talked about this already also. The cosmic storm without an eye.
Oh, that was a good one too. Cosmic storm without an eye. Yeah. Okay.
And the third one is the thousand eye and armed Buddha.
Thousand eye and armed Buddha.
Have you seen that? You've seen those sculptures, those statues, right?
With all of the arms.
Yeah, and he has all the arms, and then he has a head on the head on the head on the head, and all the different heads is like 360. But then each 360 also has another fractal of it on top of each other.
Yeah,
it's a really good physical visualization, artistic representation of the state, I would say, of infinity. That's great. And
you're aware of the Mandelbrot infinite fractal zoom, right? Benoit Mandelbrot's infinite fractal zoom. Yeah. I saw it. I think I saw it in some of your work.
That's another one. That's one that I tell people straight up when they want to know what the state is like. Is just check out the video, infinite zoom, Morbius strip, like the looping thing. And let's see. And then those visuals are some of the stuff.
The Klein bottle. The Klein bottle is another one with the Mobius strip.
The Klein bottle. I don't know if I've seen that.
KL.
Let me look at it right now.
KLEIN bottle. KLEIN bottle.
Oh yeah, there we go. Same thing. Yeah, totally. That's a great one.
That's another one.
Yeah.
And that kind of that does really the toroidal style of Big Bang, Big Crunch.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
it's like the different colors you can fill in there. That's a great one, bro. I love that one.
Yeah, that's the one that specifically Eric Weinstein has been a big proponent of that one. Are you familiar with his work, Eric Weinstein?
I've heard of his name, but I don't think I've ever listened to him.
He's kind of pretty ninja-like around the math and the physics around infinity also, which is interesting. You know who Garrett Lisi is? He's another one that's kind of they're both on kind of the math and physics around infinity expressing itself. And then
that's the thing we haven't talked about yet. When we talked about it in the beginning of the conversation before we go live, it's like a lot of those really smart guys, the physicists, the artists, even the drug addicts, the writers, they're at the edge of enlightenment. Even Kanye West, I think.
Yep.
They're at the edge of their mind, but they don't have the proper techniques to transcend it. That's why Osho said Beethoven, Sartre, Virginia Woolf, all those guys, Nietzsche, all those guys will be enlightened beings if they were from the West. From the East.
Yep.
But in today's world, we have the perfect opportunity to enlightenment because we have the internet, bro. Internet.
Exactly. Exactly. So I want to so spot on. I want to address what you brought up a moment ago, but you're so right that there's in a sense, it's kind of like what we can do in service to the awakening is we can play the tennis with these different leaders, which we'll talk about more afterward. Briefly on the call, but just the idea is that if we can take infinity expressing itself to the leadership around the world, like there's 2,200 billionaires around the planet, and there's 225,000 ultra high net worth people around the planet, and there's 200 people in the UN General Assembly, Fortune 500 CEOs, 535 people in US Congress. Basically, the point is that there's all these different world leaders that have a butterfly effect out on so many people around the planet. And so one of the things that we can do is that if we can enter into dialectic with them, whether it be, Kanye West is a good one where, like you were describing, there's so many people on this brink, and that to sort of help them recognize it in the most childlike analogies is a massive part of the gift to bring. So that's a critical one that I think we'll talk about more afterward. I really like what you were saying. I think this is probably a way that you and I will end up collaborating on, is helping the visualization of the nature of reality. Have you also seen the have you seen Alex Gray's art?
Yes, I think Alex Gray came pretty. His stuff also comes pretty close to some of the.
Yes, and the net of being, that one. It's like Indra's net, the net of being. It has all of the different heads. Yeah. And it's
enough with Alex Gray. That one,
yes.
Right there.
And it's like what you were saying with that thousand-eyed armed Buddha. Yeah. So I like these visualizations. I think that's a good one. The cosmic storm without an eye is a really good one as well. And
here's another one.
Yeah. What was the last one?
God DJing itself.
Oh, God DJing itself, like disc jockeying music. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good.
Okay, here's another one that you like. I think here's another one. A sculpture sculpting itself until the clear light of awareness appears. It's almost like Michelangelo. You know how he said the form of the sculpture is already inside the block of marble, and you just need to chip away the unnecessary outer parts of it. And then we're doing that with spirituality. We're sculpting ourselves, and then inside the sculpture is the clear light of awareness that's infinite and boundless. And the funny thing is, spirituality is the only thing that you have, the only task you can do where you can have your cake and eat it too. I always say spirituality, you have your cake and you eat it too. You can still do pickup, you can still do bodybuilding, you know what I'm saying? That's the only thing that you can do where you can become shredded and buff at the same time. You shred yourself into an atom, smaller than atom, but at the same time, you gain your Dhamma body of infinity into absolute infinite space. You get shredded and you bulk and cut at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, is that you and that's sort of what I meant by like wadat al-wujud when I kind of had my like little profound in December, this kind of like a macro level satori it was very much like seeing the entire planet undergoing the process of the, like you described, the sculptor sculpting itself until the enlightened or awakened recognition of the loop of infinity closing on itself in that recognition. And so that was, I think that one's really profound. I agree that it's like having your cake and eating it too. God DJing itself was good. So we'll have to keep artistically also. Another thing is, if you can, and I know you're already doing this in a sense, but taking and constantly, visualizing this more and more on your channels and disseminating the visualizations more and more. And so we'll do, because we're making animated series, we're making long form content as well, short form content.
I always wanted to do that.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna end up collaborating on that as well. You have about a couple dozens of minutes. You have like a dozen minutes left or so, because you need a little bit of time to get to your appointment. Where you're teaching.
We can. The appointment is at 12:30, so I could probably end at 12 or maybe a little bit over.
Exactly, and be good. Okay, cool. So let's wrap with.
I got a couple more visuals that I want to
do it. Let's do it.
A couple more. One of them is your body mind, your me suit, and all the objects that you perceive, the clouds, the trees, even the floor, become mosquitoes. They're just mosquitoes flying around the Infinite Brah.
Oh, interesting. So everything is like mosquitoes flying around the Infinite Brah.
Yeah, so basically, before you were the mosquito. Before you were only the mosquito. But now, after you shift perspective to the Dhammakaya, to the Dhamma body of Infinite Brah, all the sensation, your entire body mind pre-awakening, even the cars outside, the house, the buildings all become so small because you have to get people to visualize how huge it is, you know? It's like, you literally, your new identity becomes the sky, and all this different objects in the world are just mosquitoes flying around your new Dharma body. But then at the same time, there's no distinction, again, because the mosquitoes are just emptiness vibrating into form. They're made up the same thing as the skies and the clouds and the trees.
Yeah.
So I think that was the animation. That's a trippy one.
Yeah. That's another good one. Okay.
There's one more. Well, this one I think is pretty similar to the kind of analogy that you had on your channel when you said the necklace. It's like having $100 bills in your pocket all the time. You're just pulling one out after another, like endlessly. Every time, it's like every day, you just every time you want a glimpse at the absolute, you just pull out a $100 bill. It's infinite. It's endless. Oh,
so it's kind of like the infinite wallet or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much the infinite wallet.
This is great. Okay. Dang, I like this. I like this a lot. Yeah, I feel like it's super bringing it to the childlike level of playful visual understanding, which we definitely it'll accelerate. Yeah, the visualization is going to accelerate and amplify. Yeah, big time. That's the core that I've noticed. By the way, the geniuses that have lived before now, they've been focused on that deeply as well, is visualizing the refined distillations of metaphysics.
Einstein was a visual artist, man. Like his general theory of relativity, it's all about visualization, his thought experiments. Because humans are visual animals. And why do you say the seeing, all-seeing eye, the wisdom eye? This whole thing is about a way of seeing, a way of perception. Even though awareness goes beyond just seeing, but it's almost like there's just one unified sense store. And it's this all-seeing eye that just transcends any individual or specific sense, or like the visual sense or like the audio sense. So awareness, in a way, is kind of like just God's eye without an eye, the awareness.
Yeah.
It's a seeing that goes beyond seeing. Anyway, so there's two more that I think this one, you're gonna like this one. Have you seen Pacific Rim, like the movie Pacific Rim?
Yeah, it's probably been a bit, but yeah, okay.
So it's kind of like this. The entire So it's like this, dude. I'll read what I wrote. It's kind of like the robot. You become the giant robot suit in Pacific Rim, except that this suit is the entire cosmos with absolutely no gap and no separation and distance between humans, objects in sky, mountains, moon, and the sun. And all its parts are working in harmony and doing its best to make every action you perform and every thought that you have an absolute perfection in an interconnected, interdependent way. And there's no driver inside the robot. It's just doing itself as itself.
Okay, so I like so in a sense it can be interchangeable. The Pacific Rim analogy can be potentially interchangeable with maybe the Avengers, like the superheroes style. Recognize that you are the Infinite Brah superhero type thing. And that there's no separation in the cosmic storm of Infinite Brah superheroes.
Yeah, it's just one superhero with different parts. And this one, I think it's good for representing like the interconnectivity of it, like the different origination of it. How like every event has like an infinite webs of conditions that are connected to different infinite webs of conditions. Because the suit is kind of like, it's like kind of like Dr. Octopus too.
Yep.
And Dr. Octopus, guess what? Dr. Octopus looks like the 1,000-armed Buddha.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Dude, we should come up with the fucking like Infinite Brah superhero that just like embodies all the stuff that we talk about.
I agree. That's another really good one. It's like The Infinite Brah superhero is a really good way. I'll tell you why. The psychological literature is really clear that young kids really love superheroes a lot. And so if we make this Infinite Brah superhero when we make this, and then it's really good. It's a really good idea. It's like mom, dad, I want to be the Infinite Brah. Yeah.
Oh, let's buy the Infinite Brah action figure.
Yes. But then it's really important to not to just make sure that it's not externalized. Like that's the Infinite Brah superhero, but not me. I'm not that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you have to realize that we're all Iron Man or whatnot. Yeah, type thing.
Yeah, we're all of it, but none of it.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's why it leads me to my last example, metaphor, which is you are just you're the invisible man, like the invisible man character from the ocean world. You're just the invisible man, but all the sensations, the sky, the clouds, the buildings, the trees, the floor, the people are just the clothes that you slap on. They're just like the mask that you wear.
Yep.
So even your body, your ego, your mind, other people's thoughts. Every sensation you experience in the entire world are just clothes that you put on. Even space and time and awareness and observer are just different clothes that you slap on. And this being is invisible.
Yeah.
And that's the Infinite Brah right there.
That's perfect. So in essence, the Infinite Brah superhero that we just talked about, the Invisible Man, is both. I love it. It's both no form and all form.
Yeah, exactly. It all comes down to that, man. I think we can end it here.
I think so too.
It all comes down to the interplay between form and emptiness.
Exactly.
Form and emptiness. If you realize this at the experiential and cellular level, moment to moment, there's nothing more. Like everything comes down to form emptiness.
And it's Leela of form and emptiness. It does come down to the Heart Sutra, but also it's Leela. The play component of it, it's like Aurobindo says, it's the childlike laughter of the infinite. The childlike laughter of the infinite. The Leela component to the range of emptiness to all form, the no form to all form. Yeah. So that's it does come down to that, and that's the one end, and that's why it's like all the way back to the Heart Sutra, but all the way up to Infinite Brah is all that same recognition. One end. Yeah.
You know the sutra after the Heart Sutra. Basically, the Heart Sutra is the Theravada stuff, right? The Vipassana path. So after that, we have the Vajrayana and the Vajrayana. Their Heart Sutra, their main sutra. I don't know what it's called. I forgot what it's called. But
is it the Diamond Sutra?
I'm not sure, but it's super psychedelic. It's like when you read it, you can be put into a psychedelic trance. It's like the way they describe like the Buddha being like this lion with like 10,000 infinite faces, and like each atom contains the entire universe. How like there's all these different beings, and you know what I'm talking about. Those Dzogchen, Vajrayana, Mahayana art, like infinite. Yeah, the reason why that came after the Theravada is because that's the antithesis or the response or form to emptiness.
Yes.
In that previous Theravada phase.
Yes.
So not just individually, as individuals, we go through these different cycles of form and emptiness, and then the combination of the two. Even as a whole, as a civilization, as a religious tradition in itself, goes through these different phases. You have the Hinduism of the Brahmin, and then you have the emptiness of Buddhism. Try to refute that, and then synthesizing both, you have the Vajrayana and the Dzogchen and the Mahayana, where it says, don't stand on either side of the nihilism of emptiness or nothingness. Don't stand on the side of eternalism and the absolutism of Brahman. Find the middle way that transcends and includes both.
Yep. That's it. Yeah. Exactly. And today we have the technology to animate and simulate and create at the most experiential pedagogical level, especially for kids and adults, these visualizations of all no form to all form. And that is going to be what unlocks the diamond around each neck. Yeah. So let's jump on. We'll jump on our call and unpack that visualization more. I want to thank you, Frank. This was perfect.
Yeah. Wait, is that your real name? Or?
So my birth name was actually Arkadzi Alan Sakyan, which is Armenian. And and my middle name's Alan, so I went by that for a while. And then as I sort of shed the identity, it transitioned to Atlas, and then just one name, Atlas. And then even the last like 3+ months have basically been like, even that's gone. Now there's no form or name attached to the identity. The identity is no form to all form, not even a layer called Atlas. So, but yeah, so that, and then Frank Yang, was that what was your birth name? And you're in Taiwan right now. Are your parents both Taiwanese? Yeah. So walk us through that quick also.
My dad is in Taiwan. My mom is in the US, and right now I'm just in Taiwan because I can't really go back to the US right now because of the pandemic. And Taiwan is one of the safest places in the world right now, so I'm just chilling here. Yeah,
and so but your lineage is both mom and dad are Taiwanese.
Yeah, they're both Taiwanese.
Okay, cool. And then was Frank Yang the American? What's the Taiwanese like birth name also? What was
the Taiwanese birth name is Yang Shiyi.
Yang Shiyi?
That's my original OG Taiwanese Chinese name.
OG Yang Shiyi.
On the passport on my American passport is Frank Yang.
Yeah,
I like what you said about not even having Atlas, bro. I feel the exact same way. Just like the way this thing unfolded. Before there's Frank Yang, and then you're like, oh, there's a character here. That's not Frank Yang. But even the character is dissolving. Right now, it doesn't feel like I used to be like, oh, this character wants to do this, but there's no character. There's not even Infinite Brah. Yeah. But then you have to stand on the front to be able to talk about this. So you have to pick and choose your clothes.
Yeah. So that's another thing that we'll discuss, is that the geopolitical relationship between like the US and China. I was there in 2019 doing partnership interviews, and I loved my experience in China. And I really am excited about bringing together peace, India, China, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Brazil, all these different kind of powerhouses just working together to recognize that, this infinite Brah nature. So imagine Frank and Atlas at the UN fucking talking about infinite Brah, and everybody's microdosing magic mushrooms. Yeah, go ahead.
You know who is the opposite of infinite Brah? Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, sure.
But they're the same, really.
That's what I think. Same. Yeah, yep.
They're the same, because like when you are 100% ego, that means you have no ego.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah.
But if you're only 99%, you're still ego.
Yeah. You're the we'll keep hitting. Yeah, we'll keep hitting this ball back. Thank you, and I know, and I also
Infinite Brah is the biggest. Infinite Brah is the biggest egomaniac. He's such a big egomaniac. His ego is a sense of infinity that has no size.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we'll keep. Okay, yeah, let's so just quick, I want to end the episode by saying, everybody, I highly recommend checking out both Frank's YouTube channel. The link is in the bio below. He has really exceptional content on there. Go and watch that, and also follow him on Instagram. He has great stories and great content he posts there, including all these visualizations of infinitude, as well as sort of step-by-step understandings of how to recognize, like we talked about, the juxtaposition between the clouds and the sky, and then plucking out even the last thorn of awareness itself, the no form to all form type. He unpacks that great. So go and follow and check him out. Let us know how you think about the conversation below. Leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. Leave us a comment. Like the video if it brought you value. Subscribe or follow across all platforms. Share the content with other people so more people can see sort of and unpack what we're talking about with awakening, enlightenment, and whatnot. And that's it. That's all, folks. We love you very much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Frank.
This is so great. I've been doing a lot of podcasts recently, but this one is, I don't know. This one is something else, man.
Yeah. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about right now after this, is doing this type of stuff a little bit more frequently. We'll explore that here in a bit. Much love. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you, whoever watched the Infinite
Thanks,
Brah.
everyone. All the Infinite Brahs. All the Infinite Brahs. Bye.
Bye.